Hello, 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 and welcome to Marketing, Branding, and Getting the Sale. And we're having some technical issues this morning. We lost our guest. We got her back again. And literally, as I stopped playing the countdown video, we lost her again. But I'm sure she'll be back. I think there's just some issues with her internet. So that's okay. We can get started. We can get started without her anyway. So, what are your experiences around client onboarding? Have you ever had a fantastic experience? Have you ever had an awful experience? Excuse me. Is this something that you paid much attention to in your business? And do you understand the impact that it has on your client retention and other things like that? Well, we're going to dive into all of those things today. But before we do, let's do some quick introductions. So I'll go to Stephen, Jess, and then to our special guest, Becci. So Stephen, over to you.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome, Becci. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS, outsourced business development service. So those companies that are looking to get new introductions, get in front of new clients, but don't have the resource to make those outbound calls themselves, give me a call, drop me a message, and I will help you do just that.
Fabulous. Thank you, Stephen. Jess, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Jess. For those of you that don't know what I do, I help you get more loyal customers within your business. So we all love them loyal customers that keep coming, buying new things, introducing more people into your brand. I help you attract more of them to attract more money. I've got a 6-step loyalty process that gets you there. So if you're interested in what them 6 steps are and how we can do that together, then drop me a message and I'll send you a quick video.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jess. And Becci, our special guest today, I would like to do a quick introduction. Oh, Becci, we're not hearing you.
And she's not hearing us apparently either.
Oh, okay, Becci, we're not hearing you. Okay. Well, Becci's getting her sound sorted. Let's just see if it was working before. So, hi, Becci, can you hear us? I'll introduce myself while we're waiting for Becci to sort her sound out. So, for those of you who might not know me, my name is Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach. My business is Creative Flow. And I have a wonderful session where I can help any established business to uncover at least 50K or more in untapped revenues. So if you'd like to know how I do that, I have a video that you can watch. Just DM me or comment below with 5 steps and or 50K, and I will happily send that over to you. Okay, so Becci, there's a little cog that you can go and check your settings. So just underneath the screen. So have a look at that. And while we're waiting for Becci to kind of come back on, Jess, what has been your experience in kind of the onboarding systems for your business? Like kind of looking back to when you first started compared to where you are now, and like how different do they look?
I think, well, they're very different to start off, very different. The process that I've got in place now helps me stay aligned on my client onboarding as well. So I don't kind of go off on a bit of a tangent, kind of go off and do something that isn't valuable to the client and ends up just wasting more time. The 6-step process helps me kind of stay in that rhythm of what we're doing and when. Also, something that I've experienced a lot, which I was hoping that we'd talk about this morning, is personality profiling as well. Because it's something that I do with my clients. Well, it's not something that I do with my clients, but it's something that we look at when you're looking at marketing. So you want to look at what the behaviors of your customers are. I know you, Una, do it with your clients in a sense of, I found out my personal profile through you to understand what my strengths and weaknesses are as to how I manage my time, manage my diary and things like that. But also I found really beneficial is taking them tips that you've shared on my clients and understanding how do my clients tick, what onboarding process will be beneficial for them, what is it that they value. So understanding the person as well as understanding the process definitely helps. And that's where my experience comes in.
Interesting. So what about you, Stephen? And obviously your business is newer. So what are we, about 18 months in now, or
just over 18 months? Yes. It's funny because I never really had an onboarding process. It was just speak to a client, they agreed, and then we move forward. But I do see the value of the onboarding process. What I've realized is when I've got something in place, the client tends to stay with me a lot longer. And unfortunately, as much as I like to say every client is a success, it's not always the case. And it could be a combination of the onboarding process. They don't fully understand how it operates. It's all about managing their expectations as well. And this has been a very steep learning curve for me, but thankfully, thanks to you and everybody else, I've managed to kind of get on board myself with the client onboarding to make that journey a success and breathe some longevity into it. So I truly see the value of client onboarding it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think so I'm a creative person. Most of my clients are creative in one way or another as well. And so quite often we are those big picture thinkers that don't necessarily think about the detail and process naturally. And that's part of my big lessons, that I learned over the years to make sure to do that. And actually, funny enough, like I remember, so back in my marketing agency days, I was kind of, working in public relations. I was doing a business degree at night. And one of the things that I studied in that business degree was employee inductions and the difference that it made to the retention of that employee when they had a great start in the business. And actually, a lot of the time, what would happen was if people didn't have a good experience in the first few days, the first few weeks, they literally would decide then to leave, even if they didn't leave for 10 months, 12 months, because they didn't want it to look bad on their CV, or maybe they bailed so they didn't have to put it on their CV at all. And so actually made a huge difference. I can't help thinking that it's the same thing with clients. And it's something I've had to work hard at, and I'm still, working at and kind of improving. In fact, we just made some changes to how we do our onboarding now as well. And we're just refining some of that. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted Becci to come on and talk about this. Let's just go back to Becci and see, have we had any improvement in the sound? Becci, I know you can hear us because we've been messaging here, but let's see if we can hear you. So if she's speaking, oh, hang on, I can see your camera now. Okay, we're still not hearing. So in the audio settings, so they've got the default, and then you've also got kind of different mics. You got internal mic, and I know you've got a webcam maybe. So I wonder is there something there that if you change might make a difference for you. So just bear with us, folks, while we just get this sorted.
Whilst
leave and come back, Becci, because maybe that will make a difference. What I would suggest doing actually is maybe shut down your or maybe use a different browser. So if you're using Chrome, maybe use Firefox or something else. That might be the issue, actually, the browser. Okay, great. Yeah, leave, come back. We'll carry on in the meantime.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of pick up on what Stephen mentioned as well in having the clients for longer after they've gone through that onboarding process. I think that's really important as well. And that's how my onboarding process has changed the way that I do business and changed my business in a whole throughout the last few years. Before I didn't have a onboarding process at all. I kind of just met someone, they said, oh, I'm interested in what you do, and I would go above and beyond to speak to them, to try and get them on board, and sometimes that we weren't right for each other, sometimes we were, but there was a lot of time and a lot of effort to find that out. So my onboarding process has helped me find the right people, qualify people, and also the people that I can add value to as well. Because from a consumer and a client point of view, when you're working with someone, there's nothing worse than working with someone for a few months and then going, this person's not for me, that this is not what I need something else. So from like a consumer point of view, it's really beneficial as well, isn't it? So
well, I think like one of the questions is like, when does the sales process end and the client onboarding begin? Yeah. So so that I think that's the other thing. Like, to me, the sales process, well, I mean, the sales process kind of ends. I often have various kind of workshops and paid consults and that that people would do typically before they become an ongoing client, whether that's private coaching or being part of a group. And and I kind of use that as a way of number one helping them, and number two helping to make sure that they really understand what else it is that they need. So for me, it's kind of I guess a hybrid of client onboard, because we have to onboard them for that session or that workshop, but then there may well be further onboarding, in them coming into a an actual ongoing program. So yeah, I think there is overlap, but also I think the more that we can get that fit right in the sales process, then the onboarding has got to be about just really giving them a great experience and giving them everything that they need in order to be able to kind of maximize their results from whatever it is that they've purchased. I don't know. That's my thoughts. Anyway, let's just check and see. Becci, can we hear you?
I'm hoping that you can hear me now.
We can see you, but that's okay. We just stick with the sound.
Apologies in advance. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Yes, it's live. This is fun and translations of live things, right?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, let's just first off, if you'd like to introduce yourself for those people who don't know you yet, and then we'll just kind of catch you up on what we've been talking about, and then we want to hear your perspective.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, and apologies again for that slight blip there. So good morning, I'm Becci, and I'm glad that you can now actually hear me. So I am a process and organisation consultant, which is a bit of a mouthful to say what I am, but what I do essentially is I look at business processes and make sure that your business is running effectively and efficiently, and more important, that you are retaining your profits, your staff, and your clients.
Interesting. Funny enough, I was just talking about how when I did my business degree, I did a whole kind of project on employee onboarding, the kind of inductions programs and that, and the difference that it would make to the retention. So it's interesting to talk about the client onboarding aspect of that. So what are the key challenges that you see people have when it comes to onboarding their clients, Becci?
So I think obviously the client onboarding process is the foundation of which, as I'm sure you've touched on already, is kind of the foundations of what that prospect or that client, their first impressions of you as a business owner, and obviously as you are as a provider, whether that be a service or a product provider, and then also the ongoing relationships. So I think the initial kind of issues that people can run into is trying to rush the process and not actually having that little bit of foresight into the next steps. So obviously onboarding can encompass a manner of things, such as just getting information, setting up lines of communication, confirming things, payment details, but it also can be that first hurdle for some clients because they may never have been brought through that process before. So some of the issues as well are that clients are almost new to an onboarding or new to even using something that you provide or something that you sell, like say service, product, etc. So those are kind of the first initial hurdles, so to speak. And then I think the second one is it can be quite overwhelming for a business owner, but the technology behind it. We're very much going into a digital world now, and it can be really, really overwhelming to kind of do a search and find the best onboarding program or the best onboarding automation system or anything like that. It can be quite overwhelming, especially if you are somebody in a creative industry where that isn't your particular forte. It can be quite off-putting, which then can be an issue, because then you're not onboarding your clients as effectively as you could be, and kind of going back to that initial reputation aspect. So I think I'd say those initially are the first three to kind of get over, and once you've done that, the rest is easy, and it doesn't need to be complex by any means. Simpler the better, both for you and the prospective or secured client.
Yeah, as really interesting what you said, that the client may never have gone through an onboarding process before. I never thought about that. That's a really good point. To kind of think about, well, if this person has never had this kind of experience, like, how do we make it as fluid as possible, as welcoming as possible? How do we really make this work for them? So yeah, interesting. Jess, Stephen, any thoughts so far?
Yeah, I have one, if you don't mind me going first, Stephen. When you were talking, Becci, about hi, Becci.
I thought we'd test the waters a little bit more now.
When you were talking about that journey beyond onboarding, that was really important as well, because it takes that process to onboard people, but then that relationship doesn't stop there, does it? You want to make sure that they know how to contact you if there's an issue, how to check up on what's going on, how where that line of communication is. There's all sorts of that relationship once they're onboarded, which when you set the expectations I'd let them know about that at the beginning, they'll make that experience of being a client, being a customer, more valuable. And that is hugely important, because something that I work on with my clients is making sure that, you bring people into your brand, but we've got to keep them. There's no point bringing people in and just letting them go. There's some scary stats around it that I wanted to share, which came to mind as you were speaking. So 80%, and all based around customer service, and when you've got your clients, that relationship. So 80% of businesses think that they deliver like superior customer service. 80% of businesses are like, yeah, we're nailing this. We have great communication with our clients. They know where to go. They're happy. But when customers have been asked, only 8% of people feel like brands really deliver a great customer service that they're happy with. So there's a huge dynamic there in when we think, I've got my onboarding process nailed, I've got my customer service nailed, when really maybe we need to step out of our business and into our customers' shoes to understand, do we really have it nailed? Because as well, another huge stat is the fact that, we all know that 86%, I reckon it's more, will pay more for a better customer service. So you've onboarded this client or customer, you spent all this money and time on getting in front of them, talking to them, and then you don't keep that, that expectation up, you don't keep them happy, and then they'll all of a sudden spend more money with your competition, and that's not ideal at all, is it? So this onboarding process, like you were saying, Una, as well, in the sense of where does it start and end, I think it can kind of go all the way through, almost keeping up them expectations and that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Becci, when your tech was playing up, I was talking about, where does the sales process end and the client onboarding begin? And I think there's often an overlap, particularly if you have people buying small products or small services before they maybe kind of, go into a repeat purchase cycle or a bigger kind of offering. So yeah, interesting. So what tips can you share with us, Becci, about how people can have, a really powerful onboarding, client onboarding situation?
Going off experience of some of my previous clients and some current clients, I think the number one thing for me is communication. You can have the fanciest, quickest, less hands-on onboarding software process going, but if you don't communicate with your client, all that's just it's wasted, because that client wants to know that you are on the ball. They want to hear from you. They want to make sure that you know what you're doing and you as obviously as a business, not just you personally, I'm not pointing my finger saying you, but as a business as a whole, they want that security and that confidence, and having that line of communication, I think, is absolutely paramount. And just I've worked with some clients who've had a completely manual onboarding process. By manual, I mean sending manually emails, manually sending a document to be signed, picking up a telephone, doing it face to face, and the fact that they communicated regularly and clearly with their client, that to them it felt like personal VIP service. So yeah, I think communication is definitely the biggest tip for me. And then I think secondly is simplicity. Nobody likes anything to be complicated. Everybody likes it to be simple. And if needs be, I know on some previous lives that you've done, you've touched on things like mapping out a client journey. Again, that doesn't need to be really extensive, but just having an idea of the steps that you're going to take your client through and communicating that simply. Step 1, we're going to do this. Step 2, we're going to do this. And again, that's something else. And the rest, I think,
I think what a lot of people can do, particularly people like me who love automation and like to get rid of any, manual stuff as quickly as possible, is, I guess, not to rush into automation and make sure that you've actually got something that works before you automate it. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because I think, like you say, there are this huge, the danger is for someone to slip through any steps that you're taking. And like you say, having a watertight step-by-step process, nobody can slip through the gaps. Nobody can get that really bad customer service that you hear all these horror stories about. And that's another thing as well, actually. It's quite easy to do a quick search on the internet and read some customer service horror stories and almost take some lessons from those as well. You'll be quite surprised, I think, to see just how bad some businesses do customer service. And again, like you say, it's taking it from the sale to the client onboarding and beyond, because once you have that relationship with a client, the potential for growth there, both on both sides, is massive. And you never know. They start off perhaps in a small service or a small product, and then in a couple of years' time, as you grow in your business, they grow in their business, and you can expand your relationship with that client, and or potentially, speak with other businesses in your area, in your industry, or matching. I can't remember. The word's gone.
All right.
when you're in collaboration, like joint ventures, for example. So it's such a wider thing than just saying, okay, yes, you've bought this, here's your invoice, pay me, let's go. There's a lot more to it, I think. But again, just keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it.
Great. So communication is key. Keep it simple. Any other tips?
Just touching on what you said, to be quite honest with you, is making sure that you know what you're doing, have it mapped out if need to be. Get a piece of paper, some post-it notes, stick them on the table, move them around, so you are secure where you are in your journey on onboarding the client, and just making sure that you are secure in that, so nobody slips through the gaps. And I think, I'm sure there's another one in there somewhere, but it doesn't quite spring to mind at the moment.
I've got a question for you, Becci. Actually,
Yes.
for the group. So, client onboarding for me is I won't say relatively new, but it's a newish term. I mean, when I started out in my sales career, for me it was after sales support. Because getting a new client or a new customer is easy. Retaining them was the hard part. Because there's competition out there. So you want to cement that relationship very early on to keep that client. We talked about at the very beginning of this chat, Becci, was you want to keep your clients. So it all depends on what perspective you're coming from, whether it's onboarding or after sales service, because there are people within a business that will do their utmost to make it difficult to retain a client because you're not in control. So if you've got a proper process that's mapped out from the very beginning, it's going to streamline it so that everyone knows where they're up to. Because at the end of the day, we want new customers and we want to keep them for the long term, because your customer is your best referral partner, aren't they? If you do a great job for them and you've got, and they say, oh my God, it was so easy, the process. Got a new client, you know, I was a new client for somebody. The onboarding process, the after sales service was amazing. I felt like I was on a journey with the provider, you know, with you or me or whoever. They're more inclined to then want to go and share that success with other people. Say, you need to start working with such and such, or you need to buy from such and such because they do such a great job.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, one more quick question. Sorry. You've already talked at the very beginning about technology. So where does technology fit into to the onboarding process? I mean, are there apps? Are there programs? Because I love technology, but I don't want to be overwhelmed, because Una's introduced me to some tech, which I had no idea about, that's made my life so much easier. Toggle, Otter, you know, things like that. But what is it specifically for the onboarding process? Is there something, or is it just a...
It kind of, I suppose in a way, it depends on, number one, how much you want to use technology. You know, it's so easy in a digital world, so to speak, to think, right, yes, I need this and I need this, I need this program, and there's so many names being flitted about with different you know, automation softwares and programs that claim to do this and this. If technology isn't something that you enjoy, it is absolutely pointless investing in a piece of software that's going to do this, this, and this, and this, because you're not going to want to trust that piece of software. And if you are a manual type of person, technology is going to be a complete overwhelm. So something just as simple as having an email client with some templates, so some email templates set up where you have, you know, a set email. So, dear Mr. Smith, you know, it's great to speak to you today, last week, or whenever. You know, this is our prospectus, if that's something that you send. This is our quotation, and just having a standard email that you can send after a sales call or after an onboarding call, whatever it may be, and send it. It can be as simple as that. It's quite easy to do YouTube, to put some links in. So, hey, look at this page on my website. This details the best way that we can work together, those kinds of things. So something as simple as an email template, and then making sure that if you are onboarding them, something simple like a document to capture data, which something that's really user friendly. Not to name any names, because I'm sure there's many other pieces of software out there, but something like Google Forms, for example, it's relatively cheap to use, if not free, depending on what account you have. And there's so many tutorials on it. Simple form, name, a company number, you know, those kinds of things. You can capture that in a form. It goes into a spreadsheet, and that can be the simplest form of what I'm going to go on to next, which is a CRM, which is a client relations management. It's known by some other different names as well, but that essentially is a database of all your clients' information, be that their first and last name, whether that be a company name, telephone number, email. And again, there's some really simple ones out there, and they can capture data for you as part of the onboarding process. And working with that, you can store all the information in one place. And again, you can maybe say some personal things like birthdays, or, you know, Mr. Smith's wife or daughter, partner is this name and that, you know, it is all completely however in depth you want to go with it. And then again, something like a CRM or an email, or even something like a Google document or a spreadsheet, to just have a list of the tasks that you're working on together, an expected due date, and a status. Is it ongoing? Is it to do? Is it overdue? Is it waiting on a third party? And that is the most simplest of things where you are using technology, but you're not using a program per se. But then you can go into automation, and again, there's other products out there. So things like Zapier, which is an automation, and what they do is they use Zaps, so that connects two pieces of software together. And you can go again as in depth or as simple as you want to go, and as automated. And something like that will be the bridge between two pieces of software. So for example, if you are, I'm trying to think of a really good example here. So accounting software, for example, if you have an invoice that you need to send, you can send that through your accounting software. You can then use a Zap if it's not already integrated, which is another thing entirely. But you can use a Zap or Zapier to then send that information into your CRM, which then automates the information in your CRM as well. So then when you're talking to that client and you've got your client notes in front of you, oh yes, oh yeah, I've seen that your invoice is outstanding as well. Or there's other integrations between, so for example, a project management software and an email client. It all kind of, to be honest, it has to work around what you're doing and what's best for you. You need to find what works best for you rather than you trying to fit into a piece of software, because otherwise it's not going to work.
I think, like with you saying CRM, I think for those of you that maybe like overwhelmed with the amount of leads you've got going on, you're struggling to keep up with people. Oh, it's been 2 weeks since I've spoken to Bob, and I need to give him a ring. If you're going through that kind of that phase, then a CRM is perfect. And then again, there's so many CRM platforms, isn't there, Becci? So if you don't know where to start, chat to Becci about that, because she knows the pros and cons and good, all these sort of things of all the CRM systems, and she'll be definitely be able to find you one that fits your business and your timing. But also what you've been saying kind of leaks into a question that I had as well, which is about communication. So how, tips on how we can keep that communication up. So you mentioned, email templates, which is a great idea. So having like, if you have like a flow chart of, if I don't get any reply, what do I send? And then you've got a template ready for that. Or if they do reply and want to get going now, what do I send then? And, if you've got all that set out, that's great. But do you have any more advice or tips or examples of communication that people can do to, if they lose sight of a lead, or if a lead starts to ghost them or anything like that, how can they keep that communication up?
I think number one, Stephen, give someone like Stephen a call, or pick up the phone yourself. There's no better way, I don't think anyway, there's no better way to communicate and kind of restart that communication again, or follow up on a communication is the beauty of voice. Emails can convey so much, whereas hearing somebody's voice, or having a form of, for those who have hearing issues or impairments or anything like that, there's various other systems out there that can help utilize the sound of voice as well. Similarly, people with visual impairments, there's other pieces of software out there which you probably already know about anyway, if you're in that situation. But the beauty of that ad hoc communication, picking up a phone, or it's that, hi, how are you? And you can tell behind that whether someone's happy, whether somebody's sad, and you can convey so much that way. But if you're not a speaking person, a bit like myself, I tend to go back on email and just try and make it a bit more personable. Try and put your personality in that email. The other way, like I say, the other way to communicate is maybe just have a designated document that you both have access to. You set a time each week and say, okay, between 9 and 9:15, we're both going to go and view this document. Something like Google Docs, for example, 2 people can be in the same document at the same time. You can see each other typing in real time. Microsoft will obviously have their alternative, but a lot of my clients tend to work on Google or Macs based. Hence, that's why I use that as an example. But yeah, being in that document at the same time and in real time, you can type messages to each other. And you can keep all of your notes in there. If there's an issue, you can flag it. So yeah, setting 10, 15 minutes a week, if it needs to be that often, once a month maybe. And again, just like you say about that communication, is designating that time where you and your client know, in this slot of time, we are going to work on your business. We are going to work on our relationship and what we can do together to make your business grow and be more effective. So that's the other way of communication. And then obviously the other thing is, dependent on whether you're really tech based or not, you could use something like a project management software. Something that we use at the moment is ClickUp, and that's a great tool because it can be both internal and external. So you can add people to it at no cost, and you can keep a track of tasks. And it's a very quick way for an external person to think, okay, I'm going to see how we're doing on this one today. So we'll log in, and you have to be mindful to make sure that it is updated, obviously on your part, but then your client can log in. It can be like their client portal, for example, and they can check the status on tasks without actually interrupting your day. Sometimes in some industries you'll get a phone call, oh, how are we doing on this one today? And it can quite disruptive if you're somebody who slots out particular times. And Una, that's something that I know that Una deals with, is allotting tasks into a particular time in a week. So you do all your admin things in one slot of a week, or your finance things, and things like that, just so that you're in production, better productivity and in flow, as Una says. Yeah, that's
just to say hi to Stuart, who's joined us as well. So he's saying, yeah, amazing clients keep coming back. Soft skills, just picking up the phone is so powerful. Absolutely. And I think kind of going back to, what Jess was saying about that communication. So like, we use ClickUp in my business, but previously I used Trello. Jess, I think you use Asana. So there's these tools out there that you can use. One of the things that we really like about ClickUp is that with my first round of podcast guests, so we literally had them fill in a form on ClickUp, and then that information created a card for that person, and then we were able to kind of map that through the different stages and things of actually making kind of where are they at, or what needs to happen next, and who needs to do what. So I think particularly as you then start growing your team, and it's not just you doing everything, then I think it's having some kind of online task management system, project management system is pretty essential.
Definitely.
And then, as Becci says, you can also make that where certain aspects of those are visible to clients where appropriate. I think definitely for like creative services, that is totally key. In fact, I could even see that with you, Stephen. That your client, you could have updates, reports on, well, how many calls were made, and how many appointments were made, and that information could be communicated there. That would then trigger an email to the person, once a particular label was attached or something. So there's ways that you could, that we can all look at our businesses, and especially with the help of someone like Becci, that can then kind of go, well, actually, okay, now let's get things working or working better. What improvements can we make? And then how do we actually, automate as much of this as possible, or just streamline it so that it works better? Obviously, there are times when you do want that kind of hands-on personal touch to kind of enhance the customer experience. But then I think with a lot of kind of administrative type stuff, I think the more we can automate and streamline that, the better. But one of the things like I've started doing is Becci now does an onboarding call with my clients, who are joining my private and group programs. It's just a recent thing that we've started doing, so that she can go through and make sure that all the dates are in the diary, that they have access to our marketing academy, and that they have kind of a document where they can keep stuff, and they can go and get extra little bits and pieces that they utilize. And so it's and just kind of walking them through those things, and they can ask questions without feeling silly, and I think yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what the feedback is from that kind of, you know, going on. So yeah, Stuart's just saying that they've got they use Soho support tickets. So yeah, I guess it depends on what it is that you're selling. So yeah, the support system. Well, Becky's my support system. So you know, but it is that thing. Yeah, so they're using Soho Desk, and it is interesting, isn't it? That I suppose there's a thing of there's client onboarding, and then there's customer support and handling complaints, and that's maybe a topic. Maybe we should do another live on that, because I think that's kind of veering into another aspect, really. Whereas like with the client onboarding, what we really want to focus on is, well, let's give the client a great experience so that they want to stay or buy more or whatever is appropriate for whatever it is that they're buying from you. Yeah, I mean, I think what we've talked about here today is very much, you know, if we look at the tips that Becky shared. So obviously keep communication lines open, keep it simple, map out your journey. You know, so make sure that tip 3 actually as well, like we didn't talk about, there's one aspect of that I think is important. So keep reminding yourself of the onboarding process so you don't miss a step. I think for people like many of my clients and myself and creative people, I think that's where having a task management system really helps, because then you can have a checklist and you literally go click, 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 you know, ticking each one off as you go. You know, if you're not a techie person or you haven't, you know, got yourself sorted with that yet, at the very least have a sheet of paper or a document where you can go through that. But you want to have some sort of reminders, you know. So what are the ways you're going to remind yourself to do that? So, you know, having a task management system where you have notifications pop up for you to do something is really helpful. So if you're not going to be using that, you need to find some other way of, you know, kind of making sure that all those processes are happening as well. So yeah, and then tip 4, the power of your voice, pick up the phone and call. I think also just, you know, do what you can in the moment, you know, like, so I was, a new client's come on board last night, actually, well, yesterday afternoon. It was late afternoon, so I knew certain stuff wasn't going to happen with Becky that day, but I wanted to make sure that we were getting some stuff done. So I actually managed through the power of WhatsApp to get her booked in with Becky for her onboarding call, and you know, kind of send her something that she could be working on in the meantime, until we have, you know, the first coaching session. And so I think also there are times when you might want to adjust and adapt, you know, to react to how things are going. Yeah. I don't know, what's your thoughts, Becky?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think because that's the other thing is when you have other team members, as you grow, and you do get the other team members and you start delegating, obviously that's a subject for a different time, but yeah, you really need to make sure that nothing slips through. And something that Jess mentioned earlier of kind of, I know with the areas that Jess works in, something like, I think very quickly before, I think you used to use a handheld diary, and that was kind of the task management in a way, and then we got you onto a digital calendar, and I think that really helped that side of things, of just making sure that things don't get missed in that respect. So I just wanted to bring you in there, Jess. But yeah, I think it's all for the power of the client, and as long as the client is happy, then I think that's what you really need to keep in the forefront, and just making sure that, you know, you are on the ball and you are setting the precedent basically for how you're going to work together.
Absolutely. So biggest ahas from today, Jess, what's yours?
Mine is about the diary as well. Yeah, I do have everything set in my diary, so I know kind of what I'm doing when. And even when I get my phone up to say, oh yeah, let's book a meeting, and I'll get my diary up, people look over my shoulder and go, is that your diary? It's the most colourful diary I've ever seen. That's cute to see Aruna, so you want to know more about that, chat to Aruna. But yeah, that does really help a lot, definitely. So yeah, following on from that, my biggest takeaway of what I wanted to mention was, don't keep everything in your head. Don't have everything in your head. I'm a one-man band. I get outsourced support every now and again when I need it. But more things are in my head than what they need to be. Even I need to get them out, have flow charts, have something in a CRM system and a task management, have something where I'm not trying to soak in all this information because that's draining on myself. Even if it's a checklist, you pin it up on your wall, you know, my LinkedIn routine, do X, Y, and Z, you know, just getting it out of your head. That's probably the biggest takeaway I'd like to repeat.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So key. What about you, Stephen?
I think for me, it pretty much the same. I'm so used to keeping everything in my head. I think I need to. Your second tip, Becci, you know, mapping out the journey so you know what to do at each step rather than trying to keep it all in here. So I need to think of a good system, task management system. I've also got these different color post-its I can move around, you know, so I can get the process in the order that I want it in. Yeah. And then once I know which order, then I can map it properly. But it's just reminding myself of the onboarding process so that I don't miss a step, because every time I talk to you guys, the girls, there's something else that comes to light. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that. So I need to start writing stuff down, get it automated and remember it, because this process is so important for the client journey, you know. Absolutely. So these keys for me have been absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. Stuart's just saying Rocketbook is great if you like writing. Not something I've looked at. I'll have to check that out. Thanks,
yes.
Stuart.
Rocketbook is, yes, I'm with you on that one, Stuart. Rocketbook and the like are amazing.
New one for me to check out then. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think for me, my biggest takeaway is that just what you said about, you know, they might not have experienced an onboarding process before. And I think, you know, and I have a mix, you know, some of my clients have invested in numerous coaches over the years, but then I do have some that have never done it before. So I guess I need to kind of, maybe because we're, you know, kind of refining our process right now. So yeah, maybe we need to kind of look and go, actually, is there anything, like, what can we do for those people? Is there anything that we need to do extra or different? Because it's just a whole new ball game to them. So I think just really putting ourselves in our customers' shoes is really, really key. Yeah. So, Becci, any final words of wisdom from you before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank you all for listening to me waffle this morning, and the audience out there. Yeah, obviously these three experts are absolutely fantastic in what they do. And yeah, just thank you very much, and keep the lines of communication open. That is my biggest tip. If all else fails, communicate.
Which allows me to nicely segue into, you know, if you found value in what you've heard here today, or something that one of us has said, it kind of makes you think, then make sure that you don't just think, but take action as well. We're all happy to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to us. And of course, definitely reach out to Becci if you want to get your client onboarding systems up and running and processes going. So, you know, fantastic. And thank you, Stuart. He's saying, we're awesome. Oh, we smashed it. I would agree. Fantastic. Becci, thank you so much. I know that it's not your comfort zone necessarily being on camera to the wider world like this. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise. And as we all knew, you smashed it too. So fantastic. We'll be here. Oh, actually, yeah. I'm just kind of going, are we here next week? Had we actually decided that or not? So we'll let you know. We're usually here same time every week. We have some holidays and things coming up and bank holidays, so we might not be here next week, but we'll let you know. It'll be published in the next few days if we are, and if not, we'll see you the week after. Fantastic. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.